Ain't no one in the NFL better than me.
You know it, you'll love it. Breaking down the best surprise performances and the worst surprise performances of the week and letting you know if this is a sign of things to come or if this is maybe some fool's gold and you don't need to make any moves here or make a push to get these guys in your lineup. Starting out with the guy I just said, Marquez Valdes-Scantling, MVS, with obviously the best quarterback he's ever had in his career, in Derek Carr in New Orleans.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm going to say
Aaron Rodgers.
Oh, dude, I totally didn't even mention Aaron Rodgers. I totally forgot. I'm just thinking about the most recent stuff, and then there you go. Yeah, no, but it's obviously, clearly, he had Rodgers, too. Had Rodgers, had Josh Allen, had Patrick Mahomes. All he needed was Derek Carr, dude. Obviously.
Gone up every year to the best.
Every single year, yeah, just up to the best guy there. So, unfortunately, I have to say Fluke at the time. But he's obviously in the waiver wire because this is the potential for what could come. Something about Derek Carr just loves to chuck the ball, dude. Like it was never Olave's role. It was always like just this speedster kind of guy who can get down the field, and it seems like that's going to be the role. I mean, he only had 3 targets, but he caught every one of them and caught 2 of them for touchdowns. So I don't know, what do we do here?
Well, I think it's the waiver wire for sure, but I'm not lining him up as far as that kind of fluker for real. So because we talk about this all the time on the show, this is an unsustainable stat line. So that's why just generally this is a fluke. But if there's literally no other pass catcher, then you at least add him to your team and you keep him on your bench. And if he does this again with more targets, I want to see 7 targets from him, man. 6 will be pretty good, but 7 will be awesome. And then we'll talk about it again. But yeah, that kind of sums it up. It's you add him to your team, but this is still a fluke.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah. Let's just talk about this guy. We'll jump ahead here real quick. Talk about another guy here in the waiver wire. And I think it's a similar situation. It's Alec Pierce. Definitely waiver wire. I really actually think it's what we just said about MVS applies directly to Alec Pierce as well. It's like definitely waiver wire. Definitely grab him if he's out there. He should be out there. Don't roll him out, but the opportunity is here with the new opportunity in the offense.
Yeah, although he did have 7 targets, and he has been on the good side before, and that was with Richardson as well. So I'm more inclined to say this is more for real, but I still think he should be on the bench. You don't roll him out just yet. You got to see how the receivers are healthy. But yeah, a similar notion, but I like Pierce a little bit more this time.
I agree. Yeah, definitely. Kyler Murray. All right.
Okay.
I had him on my bench because they beat the Chicago Bears and he only scored like 6 fantasy points. And it was like, well, I guess, the pass defense of the Bears is better than the run defense. And I guess they just ran the ball a lot and he didn't really have to do a whole lot. Like he himself has said, like, sometimes I get bored during games because we can just run the ball. And like, that's just kind of how it goes. But 30.74 fantasy points, 22 of 24, 266 and a passing touchdown, and then 3 for 21 and 2 touchdowns on the ground. Yeah. I think this is for real. I think this is the guy that we thought would come to play this season.
There is one aspect that I think we needed to kind of look at with Kyler Murray, and that is how his rushing is involved. And I think we need to consider it like a running back because he had bad games because he wasn't throwing it. But if he is not throwing a lot, something that we talked about actually in our Discord, there's a debate as to who's the start between a passing quarterback that can get a lot of passing touchdowns and passing yards and then a rushing quarterback. And it's like, dude, if you have a guy that rushes for 60 yards and a touchdown, that's 12 points. Yeah. That's crazy. I mean, that's awesome. So you have Kyler Murray with 2 rushing touchdowns, even if it's 21 yards. Here's his upcoming schedule, okay? Got a bye week for the Cardinals, okay?
I have this written down too. Yeah, go.
You have this? Well, you got it written down. Go for it.
No. Okay, well, sorry. If you have the schedule, I have something about the schedule written down. So you say that. If you have the schedule, say it, and then I'll say what I want to say.
We'll see. We're so synchronized. We're doing this on our own, and then we come to the podcast with the same information. Okay, this is why we're a team. Seahawks, 11th worst defense against, or 11th most points to running backs. Then it's the Vikings, who are the 28th, so they're really good. And then it's the Seahawks again, 11th most points to running backs, and then it's the Patriots who allow the 5th most points to running backs, and the Panthers for the first most points to running backs, and then the Rams with 15th most. Think of it as a running back. Think of Kyler Murray as a running back. Who is going to give you the most rushing upside? It's a really good schedule for the playoffs as well. And then if Marvin Harrison Jr. can finally get something going for real, he had a touchdown, which is fine, but he needs more. He needs to be the guy. So I'm looking at it from rushing. This is for real.
Yeah, he definitely has more opportunities to come, Marvin Harrison Jr. does, because we just tag teamed off each other, Wes, because I have a different stat about his remaining schedule. Kyler Murray faces one defense inside the top 20 pass defenses for the rest of the season. That's it. He has the bye week this week, and then he's golden for the rest of the week. And it's the Patriots who are like, you can. I think it's kind of a skewed stat, to be honest, because they just, yes, good defense, but also, Christian Gonzalez is really good. Actually, I don't want to disrespect them, but I'm not like going to be worried about Kyler Murray playing the Patriots. But this is for real. This is for real, for sure.
Yep.
John Metchie, 18.4 fantasy points, 5 catches on 6 targets for 74 yards and a touchdown. Beautiful. What a great game for him. Awesome story. Yeah. Missed his rookie season due to being diagnosed with leukemia, recovered, found an opportunity in a primetime game and balled out. And unfortunately, it's a fluke because Nico Collins is going to be back. And we saw the inconsistency of 3 wide receivers in this offense when it was Stephon Diggs, Tank Dell, and Nico Collins. Not everybody was eating. And that's going to kind of continue to be the thing if he does carve out that wide receiver 3 role, which it seems like he could. It's him or Xavier Hutchinson. But great story. Was awesome to watch. Unfortunately, probably going to be the best game of the year for him.
Yeah, I agree fully.
Barring another injury, barring Nico Collins as a setback. But yeah, definitely. Hopefully not. Ricky Pearsall, 17.3 fantasy points, 4 catches on 6 targets for 73 yards and a touchdown. All of these 49ers skill players had like a pretty good game. And that was just like not what I was expecting. It was like, oh, McCaffrey's back. Somebody's going to lose out. And then it was like, oh, everyone was like pretty good. Like Jawan Jennings, awesome. Oh my gosh. I cannot wait for him to continue just balling out this year. But Pearsall has that speed and the I think he is going to fill that Brandon Ayuk role pretty well. And he just did it with, he just had a better game than Ayuk has all season, and he did it in his first game, really getting the full workload. And so he wasn't brought up in the waiver wire because we already mentioned him whenever Ayuk went down a couple weeks ago. But if he's out there as well, definitely worth grabbing. And then I jumped around here and I saved this guy for the end because it's Calvin Ridley, the guy you watched in person, Wes. 25.4 fantasy points, 5 catches on 9 targets for 84 yards and 2 touchdowns. I would like to hear what you think about this performance and Calvin Ridley.
I think generally Calvin Ridley has had a very inconsistent season for fantasy football, and it has been discouraging because it feels like he's always on the bench when he does well and always does terrible when he's in your lineup, and it's very frustrating, and there's got to be some kind of rhyme or reason to all of it, and I think there is no rhyme or reason because they don't have a reasonable quarterback, and that's why I'm going to just say again, I still think this is a fluke. I don't think you can trust him. I don't think he's going to help you get into the playoffs. I don't think you can start him in the playoffs as I am being attacked by another plane coming in hardcore. I have helicopters, airplanes all over. It's the Los Angeles. That's how it goes. So I'm just going to keep saying that this is a fluke. But if you differ, I can see why you'd have a different reason. But let me know what you think.
I disagree. I think this is for real. I think this is for real because there's a couple factors here. We got to look at when it started. Okay, we know that DeAndre Hopkins wasn't necessarily being an alpha in Tennessee when he was there, but I think it's a little more than coincidence that DeAndre Hopkins departs, and then for 3 straight weeks, Calvin Ridley has respectable fantasy performances. 22.6, 12.3, 25.4. I'm going to give you a list of the wide receivers that have more fantasy football points than Calvin Ridley does over the last 3 weeks. Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson, end of list.
Okay.
He's the wide receiver 3 over the last 3 weeks. And here's the last part. He has the second easiest wide receiver strength of schedule for the rest of the year. He plays the Vikings. You can pass against them. He plays the Texans. You can pass against them. He plays the Commanders. You can pass against them. He plays Jacksonville twice. You can pass against them. He plays Cincinnati. You can pass against them. You play Indianapolis. You can pass against them. And then the second Jacksonville matchup is in the Fantasy Football Championship. I think after 3 weeks, Calvin Ridley is actually a lineup lock for me. Like, I don't think I'll take him out of my lineup. So we'll have to see. But the volume has been so good. And he did it with Rudolph and with Levis. And it's just and it was against the Chargers. I understand it. And there's so much inconsistency in Levis's play. But I really like Calvin Ridley rest of the season. And I think it's going to be really interesting to see what happens. But
yeah. He will be the playoff hero or the heartbreaker of this season. Right. I think that's fair to say.
Yeah, I think it's very fair to say. Okay, let's jump into the bad guys. Bad guys. CeeDee Lamb, 8.4 fantasy points. 6 catches on 10 targets for 21 yards. RIP. I mean, I don't know what to say. This is like Cooper Rush had 23 pass attempts, and he threw for like 45 passing yards. There's something insane like that. This is not going to be good. Like you've taken so many steps down with CeeDee Lamb for the rest of the season.
Probably. Here's the only saving grace is I looked at how he did with Cooper Rush 2022 when Dak went down with the thumb and the hand injury, and it's pretty good. It's not amazing, but it's fine. Full PPR.
Yeah.
15 points, 22 points, 21 points, 10 points, 12 points. And that's how we did.
Okay.
That's fine.
It's not terrible.
That's fine. No. So I don't think there's any reason to sell CeeDee Lamb. I don't think there's anybody that should panic on CeeDee Lamb. It's just not going to be week winning upside that he had with Dak. So I would strongly encourage people to try to make a move to get CeeDee Lamb. But I think his ceiling is absolutely capped at 25. Well, because it's CeeDee Lamb. If he's going to be your wide receiver 2 or 3 on your team, I think that's going to be fine.
But do you think that owner is going to take that cheap of a deal?
Probably not.
Right. I would.
That's why I think go for it.
Would. If I have CeeDee Lamb, I think I'm trying to sell right now.
It depends who's available.
Right. And so I think I'm trying to sell depending on what you can get. But like if you can go get if you could go, we're going to talk about this guy next, but like if you could go get Tyreek Hill, I'm going to go get Tyreek Hill. And like there could be somebody who's the Tyreek Hill manager is super fed up with the season and they're done even in another game with Tua back, just 11 fantasy points. Like they're just super done with it. But the Dolphins just won, and if they're trying to make a push, if they're going to try and make the 7th seed in the AFC, like they're gonna make sure he gets involved. So like, if you can do that, I'll be honest, like I might trade him. I might trade him for Calvin Ridley. I might trade him for like Calvin Ridley plus, not straight up, but like I might trade like Calvin Ridley and like an RB2. Like if you could, like I might do that. Like I might
get another running back. I think would be fine. Yeah, I like that.
I'm worried if Ridley, or sorry, not if Ridley, if Lamb comes out and just has another 8-point game again, you can't trade him. Like you can't get value out of him after that. If he has another stinker against the Texans,
Texans,
I don't like. You won't be able to get like the value for him that you can, and then you're just going to be kind of stuck with him. And he's going to be in your lineup every week because he's CeeDee Lamb. But like, you could send him now for Calvin Ridley plus Josh Jacobs or something like that. Like see if you can make that trade work or something along those lines. And I would probably accept
interesting. That's interesting. I like this, and I want to hear what people think of this. Who would you rather have rest of season, CeeDee Lamb or Tyreek Hill? That's a great question. Yeah. 2 first-rounders that have had some up and downs, and right now they're both still pretty bad. Who would you rather have rest of season? I like Tyreek Hill.
I do too. And he's the next guy we're talking about here, as I mentioned, 11.7 fantasy points. Both these guys are in a similar situation. They've been good or disappointing at weeks. And if you have them, you're rolling them out. Like that's the difficult part of it, is that they're probably in your lineup, and that's kind of how it's going to go. So, Jaylen Waddle, however, I thought we were going to get a game, man.
I thought so too.
First drive, 2 big plays. 2 big
and the
plays,
wrist
first
injury
drive.
with Hill going in. Man,
yeah,
I thought for sure.
Yeah, I thought it was going to be a good one. I like the targets. I like the 6 targets, but to be honest, I don't have Tua's stat line right in front of me. But the passing game itself wasn't at its finest.
No.
In this game,
I said it was do or die.
20 for 28,
fantasy.
207 and 1 touchdown. Waddle led the team in receiving yards, so I mean that's good. But it's tough. I traded for Jaylen Waddle. Unfortunately, he's been relegated now to my bench. Fortunately, because I have Calvin Ridley and Cortland Sutton, so that's the fortunate part, is that those guys get to come in.
Good for you.
But yeah, Waddle is no longer like just the every week start. Like he's
no longer a risky boomer bust. Like there's no reason to have
it's
him
not
in your
like a
lineup
question
right now. This is
anymore.
real.
It's kind of like you need to see him have a couple good ones. Like he'll need a couple like 15 plus point games in a row with the good targets in it as well, with like the 5+ targets or 6 targets,
especially in
as
playoffs too. Playoffs coming up. I mean,
tough.
how are you going to start Waddle with any confidence? So that's for real. But Tyreek Hill, it's so good to see him get in the end zone, but there's still concern for me with 4 targets. That's concerning. And then 16 yards.
Yeah,
what's going on here? I know he had a couple rushing yards as well, but truly, Devon Achane's the best running back and wide receiver on the team.
Yeah, and Jonnu Smith, dude. Jonnu Smith is taking over like taking a real role here too. Yeah, they have taken, like, the passing game went from Hill and Waddle and Achane, we saw him be involved last year, to it's now been spread out from across, it was between 2.5 players last year to now 5 players this year who are in line to get targets. And it's not been beneficial for the early round draft picks this year, besides Devon Achane. So yeah, disappointing stuff for sure.
The morale you said, I think, is helpful for why you can still have faith in Tyreek Hill. They just got to win. They improve to 3 wins, and they have to basically win out. So there's an opportunity for the Dolphins to feel like, hey, we just beat a good team. By all respects, the Rams are a good team, fully healthy. So maybe there's some inspiration for Tyreek and Tua to air it out like they did last year. I'm still very worried if this happens again. It's too late. The trade deadline for fantasy leagues is ending after this week, maybe next week, depends on people's formats.
I think it's soon.
I want where it's 17th, 18th, something like that. So figure it out now.
Yeah, a couple of good matchups for the Dolphins wide receivers coming up: the Raiders, and then they do get the Patriots. Even though they are a top 10 pass defense, it's still a game where they might be able to exploit some stuff. But again, you just don't know who it's going to go to, so it's tough goings. Tank Bigsby, mentioned him, no longer needs to be in lineups. You obviously, I'd drop Tank Bigsby for Gus Edwards right now. Would you?
I think, because it's still a handcuff. I wouldn't drop
or another
Bigsby.
Handcuff. By the way, if Corum or Benson or those guys are out there, you can drop Tank Bigsby for those guys. You'd rather have those guys in the event that Connor or Kyron go down. Like you said, Wes, you mentioned it. It's the time to have the handcuffs, because I've been rostering Blake Corum on rosters every single week for many weeks now, just because Kyron hasn't stayed healthy for a full season yet, and if he does go down, Corum's going to step in and get good work. So it just depends. But Bigsby you can drop. He's droppable. Dalton Kincaid got hurt in this game, knee injury, didn't end up making it back in. But 4.4 points is not a surprise based on the season.
No.
There are many better options. I think available. Like
We're
this has
at
been
the
such a
point.
disappointment, dude.
It's one of the bigger disappointments. I don't think he qualifies in the top 10, which we'll talk about in our Thanksgiving episode coming up. A little teaser for a Thanksgiving special. Some of the biggest turkeys. So Noah and I are each going to give you our biggest turkey. Dalton Kincaid's not going to be my biggest turkey because there have been some pretty bad ones. But I do think that this was an opportunity for Kincaid to be that early 4th, 5th round pick people drafted him for, like myself in like every league. So this is disappointing. But I was just going to say,
Cooper, no Keon.
Come on, man! This is a prime opportunity. They didn't do anything.
Yeah.
And so
I mean, he did get hurt, so I don't want to wait too much on it. But it's just been a disappointing season.
If this happens again next week, I do think that we're at the stage in the regular season where we need to start rostering better players. And I think you can consider dropping Kincaid. Yes, especially if you got an option. Secure. I mean, here I am in one league. I've got Taysom Hill and David Njoku. Taysom Hill, with how the Saints are, I feel like I would rather keep than Kincaid. But if I get Gus Edwards, if I'm able to get someone because of an injury, I can secure my lineup for better options for the playoffs. Kincaid is sneaking up as top of the list for who I'm going to drop next.
Yeah, this sucks. It was supposed to be Kincaid season.
This is going to be incredible.
It's like it was supposed to be Robbie season, dude. It's supposed to be Robbie season 3 years ago. It's supposed to be Robbie season.
Chosen.
And then we just missed it. We whiffed. And then you already mentioned him in your victory lap. West, last guy here is DeAndre Swift, 7.5 points. This is for real because the offense is lost. And maybe he'll rattle off another top 24 week. He'll break off a touchdown or something like that. But this offense is just broken. He's not even getting stuff in the PPR game. One target. It's bad.